Recently, I was at the Mauritshuis in The Hague, here in the Netherlands. Great museum, and there was an exhibition about Nicolaas Maas that I wanted to see. And of course, I also went to see uh, the girl with the pearl earring. I made some detailed photographs of her, and it was something I thought was interesting to talk about a little bit. Also, because I recently received a question. That painting, that famous painting, The Girl with the Pearl Earring, um, when you hear people talk about it, um, and there are some very eloquent explanations about that painting, but people talk about it as if it is the expression of love, and Vermeer must have been in love with the model or whatever. And when I look at this painting, I think it's a great painting. I think it's one of the greatest portraits ever made. Of course, Vermeer is my biggest hero in painting. But when I look at this painting, I think Vermeer approached this as a study in light and form. He made a trony that was what this was called, sort of generic portrait. I don't think that the person who modeled for this painting actually looked like the person on this painting. I think chances are that if you would see her actually walking by, you wouldn't recognize her because it's very idealized. And when you look at the way that Vermeer treated this painting, he must have thought about optical effects. For example, there's no bridge of the nose painted by Vermeer because optically he didn't see it, so he didn't paint it. And where he is really a magician is how he suggested that pearl. It's only a few blobs of paint, and he creates this wonderful reflection in this pearl of the white color that the girl with the pearl earring is wearing. And he creates this wonderful yellow and blue, very fresh color combination, very strong colors. There is this juxtaposition between the very loose brushstrokes in the turban and the almost animal enamel, very, very precious looking face. So I think that Vermeer approached this in his mind as a very technical painting. But Vermeer, being who he is, he creates this poetic painting. He creates this great portrait, this wonderful appearance. So I recently got this question, and this viewer of my videos asked, how come that your drawings are so alive? I do not want to compare myself to the greatness of Vermeer. Vermeer is my biggest hero. I say this with all respect and humility, but I try to relate a little bit to what I see in Vermeer's work, and try to understand what's happening there from my own experiences. Is that when I make a drawing, I look at tonal values, I look at the placement of the features, and of course I try to make it convincing in the expression of the face, but it's not a deliberate attempt at some point to create some sort of expression in a face but the liveliness that I'm seeking is in everything that you do. But while I am making the drawing, I'm thinking about technical things. Where should I place that eye? Isn't that eye a little bit too low or too high? Or should I emphasize something here or there? Are the tonal values correct? So while I am drawing, it's mainly a technical process in my mind. But in the back of my mind or in your being as an artist, um, the ultimate goal is to get that expression right and to get all these things in the drawing, or what you wanted to convey at a certain personality. So, but as it is like in the grooves of a record, those old vinyl records, it's in it automatically almost. It's what you do all the time. But as you are working on that drawing, and I think that Vermeer must have felt the same more or less. One is working on technical issues. Should I emphasize this more or not? Should I put a tonal value there a little bit darker or lighter? Because when you look at this painting, he was very deliberate in making the white color the lightest area of the painting, and he was very careful to let that turban go together with that hat of the girl. And he must have been very careful in making her clothing, her shoulder, not too light. So they had this understanding of light and dark, clair obscur, which is described, for example, in a book by Roger de Paals. I'm going to talk about that later. So when I hear people talk about, oh, he must have been in love with this girl, and I feel that the magic works. But Vermeer was a magician, and he knows how to operate his paints, his tricks. But I think that he just approached this in his mind, in his way of thinking, as a study in form and light. So next time when you are drawing, it's something to think about. Just try to get better at tonal values, the placement of the features, a convincing use of textures and hatchings and whatever. And in the back of your mind, the ultimate goal is, of course, a good expression of it. But as you are working, oftentimes it's really very much a technical approach. And from my own videos, just look at my videos. I just tell you what I'm thinking at that moment, and those are mainly technical issues. Let me know in the comments what you think of this painting. And again, I'm not comparing myself in any way to the greatness of Vermeer, but I try to understand from my own practice as an artist what he must have been doing. And I'm trying to understand this little, beautiful, great painting.